Here we are, coming into Yellowstone, which means I'm entering a bit of interesting territory from a legal perspective. So while I walk into the park, I'll tell you about some research I've done. So, first of all, the Yellowstone National Park exists in 3 different states, and right now I'm still in Idaho, and for like 5 more miles, or I don't even know if it's that much, I'll be in Idaho until I cross the border into Wyoming. Also, the park overlaps Montana. There's about 260 square miles of the park in Montana, and right here there are 50 square miles of the park in Idaho. Now, this is interesting from a legal perspective because for some reason, so of course, because this is federal lands, the states have turned all their legal jurisdiction and rights to the federal government, and the federal government decided to put the entire park inside the District of Wyoming, the federal courts, including the parts that are in Montana and Idaho. Now, let's switch to constitutional law for a moment. There is a clause in Article 3, Section 2, called the Vicinage Clause, that says that certain crimes, federal crimes, are to be prosecuted in a trial with a jury selected from the state and district where the crime is said to have been committed. And also, the Sixth Amendment guarantees every federal crime, at least, maybe even every crime of a certain type, also will be tried in front of a jury of peers from the state where the crime is said to have been committed. Now, because of that wording in the Vicinage Clause, there's a legal theory that says, it says state and district is where the jury must be selected from. Someone who lives in the state and district. Now, for pretty much every other state and every other district, the state and the district are the same. So, there's a District of Idaho. It's in charge of crimes committed in Idaho, and juries would be selected from within Idaho. However, as I said before, there is this little 50 square mile piece of Idaho that is in the District of Wyoming. And so, a literal interpretation of the Vicinage Clause says that any crime of the kind that can be prosecuted by a federal court must have its jury. The defendant has a constitutional right to a jury selected from the state and district, which, for a crime committed here, would be just within this 50 square mile section of Idaho that's in the District of Wyoming. Unfortunately for the court, the current legal population of this little strip of land on the edge of Yellowstone is 0. And it's likely to stay that way. I mean, there's not much here. None of the cool parts of the park are here. There's no permitted backcountry sites over here. So, it's very likely that any crime committed here would be challenged, like the prosecution of it would be challenged under the Sixth Amendment and maybe end up at the Supreme Court, just because there is no legal way to try the defendant in accordance with that clause, just because the jury pool has no one in it. So, I mean, it's an untested legal theory. There are no crimes known to be committed in this little strip. Certainly none have been tried. And it's an easy one. This little legal loophole that may or may not exist would be an easy one to patch up. All you have to do, the federal government said, hey, let's just move the district boundaries to coincide with the state line. Problem solved. They don't seem to show any interest in solving the problem that way. No one has proposed doing that. Even though, you know, some people in the legal academy think it should be done. So, maybe you say they're just waiting until some crime actually does happen here that can test it. But the problem is, it would be too late if they waited until after the crime was committed, because the vicinage clause also says that the district shall have been previously ascertained. So even if they decide to come in after the fact and redraw the district boundary, if the crime's already committed, then it is already in the District of Wyoming, even if that later becomes, as it should be, the District of Idaho. So what options does that leave the government if someone does, you know, commit a murder in this little strip of land? Well, they can maybe out-loophole the loophole, because although the clause says the jury shall be from residents from that district and state, it turns out it doesn't matter how long you were a resident. You could have just moved in, dropped your stuff the day before you get your summons to jury duty. So, and this is a long shot, of course, because it requires a bit of bureaucracy with the DOJ cooperating with the Department of the Interior, but it is, at least from my research, legally sound for them to just set up some temporary residences out here, clear a little bit of land, put a little tent city, move a bunch of people in, and have them live there, give them their summons, and of course there will be only one trial happening in that district and state, but which means they will be the only ones eligible to be selected for the one case that's on the docket. But because they have moved in and dropped their stuff, they're now legal residents of that state and district. So they could just bring in a bunch of rangers, enough to satisfy the voir dire process for the jury selections, and there you go. Constitutional rights of the alleged murderer respected. This is a potential, if inconvenient and possibly expensive, solution to the problem that they could just easily solve now if they felt like it. And hey, if I found out that someone had done a crime here and they needed some jurors from the state and district, I'd be happy to volunteer to move into Yellowstone National Park, into new residential property they created just to have a jury. I mean, sure, it's not super fun to be on a jury, but hey, if it gets you a chance to live inside the park, isn't it worth it? All right. Well, now that I'm in the park, I've got another 9 miles to go to my first campsite, and it's already late in the day, so I better get hiking faster. Next video, hold faithful. Have a good one.